Hey everyone, ZechFrost here, talking to you about a character option today for the fighter, the martial archetype Contender. First off, before we get this going, I want to go ahead and let you know that if you go down to the description, you can download the PDF and follow along, or just skip this video entirely. It's up to you. But I'm going to go over everything that's in that PDF and just talk about each of the, the synergies that go along with this class and how it works in the fundamental level. First off, I noticed that there wasn't really a subclass out there, or class in general, that's based around the grappling mechanic. The grappling mechanic in 5e is very strong. In fact, a lot of people don't really realize you can grapple somebody and then do a bull rush thing where you could shove them down onto the ground, and then they're prone. And if they want to get out of that prone status, they have to use half their movement. But since they're grappled, they have no movement, so they can't stand up. So they have to break out of the grapple before they can do anything. It's actually a really strong zoning technique that you can do. And as well as that, you have two hands, and it says as long as you have a free hand, you can grab another target. So you could actually be grappling two targets and then shove them both down to the ground. They can't move at all. You can already see why grapple is, from this conversation, is really strong. But there wasn't anything that actually added more than that. There is this one feat, the grappler feat, which I've actually based a lot of the mechanics that are within this feat on for this actual archetype. The Contender starts out at 3rd level getting the grappler feat. I know this is pretty unusual that a subclass would actually get a feat as soon as they get taken, but in this case, I didn't really see too many options as far as why they couldn't take it. So the only time that they would actually be able to get a feat before this is if they were a variant human version where they get to pick the feat instead of having a whole bunch of stats. That's in the PHP somewhere. You can actually check that out if you want to. But essentially, this is going to be the first feat they get. If they already have this feat somehow, then that's just the end of that. They don't get to have any more feats, essentially. This is the one. Just to go over real quick what the grappler feat does, it is a ability that allows you to, when during a grapple, pin your target. You actually have to make another grappling check in order for that to work, but once they're pinned, you're both considered restrained. This is actually going to play into a lot of the abilities that come with this. As well as getting that grappling feat, they get at 3rd level grappling superiority. Now, this is going to look pretty similar to people that have actually already seen the fighter's subclasses of the martial adept. It uses superiority dice in the same way that it does, where it actually gets an allotment of them and then can throw those superiority dice whenever it uses an encounter ability. Now, these maneuvers are the thing that are pretty much the base part of the class that make this more interesting. I wanted to go over a few of these maneuvers to actually tell you about why this class is actually so cool in my head. So these maneuvers are the base option for the class. So they are the thing that's going to actually make the class what it is, have its abilities, do its damage, all of its functions. The Contender is falling into more of a sort of tank role where it's actually grappling the creatures and then putting them down and not allowing them to move any further. This may be a little bit on the strong side right now, but I'd rather it be in a strong point right now, and we scale it back as we've done some more play testing and figured out what this class is really capable of. So within the PDF, it's actually labeled that the maneuvers are within alphabetical order. I'm not necessarily going to go through them in alphabetical order. Instead, I'm just going to talk about them in the manner that would probably be taken, because these are going to be abilities that are pretty core, and I can see people wanting to grab these first rather than the others. So first off here, I just want to go over Seize the Moment. It is a ability that it says when you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack, you may use a bonus action to attempt to grapple the target. When you do so, you expend 1 superiority die and add to the grapple attempt. The reason you want to go ahead and do this one first, most likely, is because you need an intro into actually landing the grapple. And this allows for damage to immediately happen, and you're getting to apply multiple attacks in the future to allow for Seize the Moment to actually be an effective grapple attempt. A lot of monsters have this ability where they get to do an attack and they get to grapple in the same action. It's kind of surprising to me there's not too many options out there that are allowing you to make a grapple attempt and also do an attack. But in this case, this is really just for using superiority dice, which you only have so many of in the first place, and it's going to go ahead and allow you to get that grapple attempt in at the beginning of the fight or, farther in the fight, still allowing you to do damage. On top of that, it's allowing the superiority die to add to the grapple attempt, which is making you a better grappler no matter what. It's not even like you're getting advantage or anything like that. You're just getting to add that die roll to the grapple attempt. And you're going to see this as a theme throughout most of the abilities that are coming with the Contender subclass. Second one I want to go over is the Mammoth's Charge. When you take the attack action on your turn, you can forgo one of your attacks to tackle a target creature. You charge forward 10 feet in a straight line towards the target. Once within 5 feet of the target, they must make a strength saving throw. On a failed save, the target suffers 1d6 plus your strength modifier, plus the superiority die roll of bludgeoning damage. If the target is one size larger than you or smaller, then they are knocked prone, and this gets stronger as you level. And I just wanted to go over that last line real quick. Essentially, if the target is one size larger than you or smaller, then they are knocked prone. And I wanted to be very clear on this, that this is indicating that the larger size target being a size category larger than you. So if you're a medium and they are large, then this would work. It would work just fine. If they are smaller than you in any case, such as if they're small or tiny sized, then you would be able to go ahead and knock them prone as well. However, if they are a huge size, then this would be outside of that range. You wouldn't be able to knock them prone. It may be that the Mammoth Charge is a little bit strong just due to the fact that it's able to move you. There's not very many abilities that I can think of off the top of my head that allow you to actually move just by doing the ability. But in this case, I wanted to go ahead and allow the Contender the ability to actually get into someone's face. Next one's a fun one. This one's Bite of the Dragon. If you have a creature grappled, then when you take the attack action on your turn, you can forgo one of your attacks to pin the grappled target. Make another grapple check. When you do so, you expend one superiority die to add to the grapple attempt. What this is talking about is the same pin attempt that the grappler feat actually adds to the class. So essentially, we're going to be restraining them and stopping them from being able to do anything. The purpose of this is that it's going to play into some of the other abilities that I want to go into right now. The next one is the compression hold. During a pin granted by the grappler feat or a maneuver, when you take the attack action on your turn, you can forgo one of your attacks and expend one superiority die to compress the target. The target must make a strength saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes 2d6 plus your strength modifier plus the superiority die roll in bludgeoning damage. And of course, the damage gets stronger as you level. This is actually going to be probably the highest amount of damage you can do with the class, and it's based around going ahead and getting them into that pin. You can use your other abilities to probably get them into the pin, or you can just use the grappler feat to get them in there. But once they're in the pin, you can deal some pretty intense damage. Now, this one's actually the reason that I even made the Contender in the first place. This is the suplex. The reason I made this class is because one of my players decided that he wanted to suplex a giant hyena. And he rolled a grapple check on it, rolled a natural 20. I just gave it to him after that point. I said he could do a suplex on the thing. So after that, I was pretty inspired to make this subclass. If you have a creature grappled, you can use a standard action and expend one superiority die to pin the grappled target. The target grappled creature must make a strength saving throw. On a failed save, the target is slammed into the ground, suffering 1d6 plus your strength modifier plus the superiority die roll of bludgeoning damage. You and the creature are both restrained until the grapple ends, and that also levels with damage. Now, you're going to have to be doing a full standard action in order to do this ability, unlike the Bite of the Dragon, which is just foregoing one of your attacks. Now, the Bite of the Dragon is really strong. You may be seeing that the suplex is used earlier on in levels. Next one I want to go over is a Lion's Share. If you have a creature pinned by you, granted by the grappler feat or a maneuver, you may expend a superiority die and make a grapple check on a target 5 feet from you. If you succeed, you pin the target, restraining the creature and you until the grapple ends. Now, this is a pretty strong ability just for the fact that you can go straight from pinning one creature and then having another that's in melee range of you, and then also going, instead of having to do a grapple check and pin them, you can go straight to the pin using this ability. The next is Defensive Throw. When another creature damages you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction and expend one superiority die to reduce the damage by the number you roll on your superiority die plus your strength modifier. Then the attacker must make a strength saving throw. On a failed save, the attacker is knocked prone and you may move the target up to 15 feet away from you. This is where I think the tank aspect of this character comes into play. You're going to go ahead and put people on the ground, make sure that they can't do any attacks on you, and then on top of that, if somebody tries to come in to attack you, you're going to be able to reduce some of that damage and put them farther away from you, maybe off a cliff, something along those lines. Speaking of throwing things off cliffs, we have the Fireman's Carry. As a bonus action, you can expend a superiority die to lift a target pinned by you, granted by the grappler feat or a maneuver. Make a grapple check, adding the superiority die roll. If you succeed, then you are no longer considered restrained during the pin. So the point of this essentially is that if you've pinned a creature, you can pick them up on your shoulders and then carry them around, throw them off a cliff, do whatever you want to at this point. You are no longer put into that restrained status, and they are still restrained. Another that's going to be useful for you guys, if the creature that's trying to grapple you in any case, you might be able to do something about this with Heaven and Earth. If you're under the grapple condition by a creature one size larger than you or smaller, and take the attack action on your turn, you can forgo one of your attacks to attempt to break the grapple by expending one superiority die. You perform a strength check against the grappler's strength check, adding the superiority die roll to the check. If you succeed, the grapple is broken and the target is now prone. Now you can see that if a creature does grapple you, you're going to be able to not only do one of your attacks, but also do this attack, knock them prone, potentially try to grapple them if you have more superiority die, like Seize the Moment could be applied here, adding a little bit more synergy. And so far, this is our last maneuver that I have listed here. It's the shoulder throw. If you have a creature grappled, when you take the attack action on your turn, you can forego one of your attacks and expend a superiority die to attempt to throw the grappled target. The target must make a strength saving throw. On a failed save, the target suffers 1d6 plus your strength modifier plus the superiority die roll of bludgeoning damage, is knocked prone, and you may move the target up to 15 feet away from you. This ability could be considered a pretty strong one for the fact that you're able to not only throw them 15 feet, you could also keep them right next to you, and it's knocking them prone, and you're foregoing one of your attacks. Now that was the last of the maneuvers, but there's still a few more abilities as you level up that makes this class even more interesting. First off, we've got In Control. Starting at 7th level, during a pin granted by the grappler feat or a maneuver, you have resistance to bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage from the target you have pinned, and your maneuvers count as magical purposes for overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage. Now I know what you're thinking, that's going to make this pretty hard to kill after you've started pinning things. So the entire point is you're getting to grapple these targets, pin them down, and they're going to do way less damage to you afterwards, making you a very substantial tank. And as well as that, it's making it to where all of your future maneuvers are going to be able to get around hitting creatures that are normally immune to that, because you can't use your weapon damage in this. You can't have a magic weapon that's going to bypass certain resistances and such. Instead, this is just going to go ahead and allow you to use those abilities to actually do damage still. Starting at 10th level, you're going to get the improved grappling superiority. The point of this is to actually make sure that the damage is scaling on all of your abilities as well as the grappling attempts. So it goes up to D10 at 10th level, and at 18th level, you're going to be up to D12s. And this is going to be adding a lot more to the grappling attempts as well as the damage. It's going to make this a lot stronger as you go up. And lastly, this is the chain throw ability that you get at 15th level. When you roll a 10 or more on a superiority die, you regain one superiority die. And that's pretty strong in itself just for the fact that once you've actually rolled that number that's above 10, so starting at that level, you would be able to actually have a D10. And as you get to the higher level, you're going to have a D12, increasing that ability to be even stronger. You're going to be able to do a lot more superiority die attacks, maneuvers, and such like that, making this a lot stronger in the later levels. And that's pretty much it. That's the Contender martial archetype for Fighter. I'm pretty excited about this. I think I did a pretty good job making this pretty synergistic. As well as that, I do know that this is probably a little unbalanced at the moment, but I can see that if we can get some more playtesting in, get a little bit more in there, I'd like to make another attempt at this to make sure it's not just a rough draft anymore. In the future, I'd love to put this on DM's Guild and see if we can actually get a nice product out there for you guys to actually try out. If you guys have any questions for me as far as, what this subclass is about, or anything D&D related really, feel free to hit me up on my Twitter account at ZechFrost, as well as ask any questions in the YouTube comments. Thank you very much, guys, and you have a great one.